these are answers that would fit into the humanist tradition. And to understand Faust, we have to talk a little bit at the very end of our class today with humanism. What was the main goal of every man? Did any other goal matter?
No.
Did all of his worldly accomplishments matter?
No.
If he'd written a great poem, would that have mattered? No. The point of every man was to point human existence toward one divine end. Salvation and good works can help you get there, but in the end, most of the things that we celebrate humanity for were not relevant to every man. Beauty, strength, friendship, all these things that help many of us understand our humanness or help us get through our humanness, depending on your point of view, were put away. In the medieval worldview, right, existence in Western Europe, we talk about Western Europe, England in particular in this case, but Western Europe, was oriented around the divine, around church teachings. The moral, legal, philosophical underpinnings of society were put around this one goal. The art, the literature, the music, all the cultural expressions, with very few exceptions, had a divine purpose, right? This was not a very secular world, and every man, even though it has secular characters in it, has a very clear medieval view that has to do with God, heaven, divinity, things like that. In this world, man is fallen. Man is sinful, man is corrupt, man is prone to failure, and without guidance from the angel in the play, from discretion, right, from knowledge from the church, man left to his own devices is a creature likely to fall into damnation. Now, not overnight, and not one morning, Marlowe didn't invent this either, a different view begins to emerge in Europe, and in a very short version, we have to just jump a few hundred years into the Renaissance. Marlowe does write a play that's in a different view of the world. And one of the views that begins to propagate in the Renaissance, and we're talking about the late, 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, those 3 decades, starts really down in Italy and Southern Europe, works its way north, really doesn't get to England until right around the time of Henry VIII, which is perfect because that's right before Marlowe gets in the scene. Marlowe comes along right as Elizabeth, Marlowe is Elizabethan. This is the 1570s, 1580s, 1590s in England. The Renaissance worldview begins to take hold, not always and not everywhere, but certainly among intellectual and educated people. And it's a humanist view. And the idea is that not that man starts off corrupt, terrible, a creature that can only be saved by God's intervention, but an idea that man is a remarkable creature. That man is I say man, but mankind, not just the male sex. That the human race is to be celebrated, if it's going to be celebrated in divine terms, as the great accomplishment of God, as a wonderful thing, if you're going to put it in divine terms, but if you're not going to put it in divine terms, as a remarkable species, an exceptional species, not something to be derided as corrupt and sinful and doomed to failure, but something to be celebrated, powerful, remarkable, self-aware, able to create worlds, able to have an imagination, so far above the beasts that they're not even in the same category. Look in your books on page 378. We're not studying this play together, but it is fortunate that this play is in this book. Oddly enough, after all I just told you about prose, this speech is in prose. Even though if there's any speech in Shakespeare that you would expect to be in formal verse, it would be this one. But it's buried in a conversation between Hamlet, Rosencrantz, and Guildenstern, and so it's a little bit more casual since Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are not kings. It's also possible that it might have been a verse at one point and that it just got corrupted over the years. But at any rate, what you need to do is, of course, go right down, and you know where I'm going, line 299. What a piece of work is a man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, inform in moving how express and admirable, in action how like an angel, in apprehension how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. Right? A famous statement of Renaissance humanism, the idea that man is exceptional. What a piece of work is man. He is the paragon of animals. What's a paragon? Yeah, pinnacle, the best thing there is, the best animal. You cannot match it. So when you study Faustus, you're looking at Renaissance humanism through the eyes of a character, trying to see how much he can accomplish. Now, there's some parts of Faustus that seem to be medieval, particularly the fact that he's dabbling in black magic, and this would seem to be a sort of Dark Ages medieval concept. But he is exploring the limits of what a human can accomplish. And so his deal with the devil, the deal that he makes where he's able to conjure up and negotiate with the devil, is a very humanist idea because it puts Faustus negotiating with a divine being, in this case Satan, and making a deal, if not as equals, at least in the same category, right? You don't make a deal with a creature so far below you that it can't understand the deal. So Faustus and his discussions with the devil, and Faustus wanting not just money, right? Does Faustus say, I'll sell my soul for riches? No? Not there yet? No? All right, as you read me for Wednesday, look for what Faustus trades for. He's got something to trade, his allegiance, his soul. He's willing to trade his soul, which in a medieval worldview is the only thing of value, if he can get something back. What's he want back? Right? Yeah. Why would a human think that he can get obedience from a divine being like Mephistopheles? Well, when you get to the Renaissance, you've got a different worldview, a worldview that says man is not a fallen, corrupt, destroyed, weak animal that can only be saved by divine intervention. You have a Renaissance worldview that says, no, wait a minute. Man has done great things. Put yourself, if you can, in 1590. Yeah, you probably can't. I can't. But if you compare it to what came before, a 1590 of gunpowder, who's already sailed to the New World? Yeah, 1492. It's been 100 years since Columbus, so there are colonies in the New World. There are inventions starting to come along. And the Renaissance, when it hits England, has already been going for 100 years. So by the time it starts to filter through English culture, it has already been established that there's a whole philosophy that does not denigrate the human being as mere dust. But it says he's the paragon of animals. What a piece of work is man. He's incredibly beautiful. He's perfect. In fact, let me show you this. It's funny, my kids and I talked about this last night. Oh, shoot. We will make it. Make it happen. Turn out the lights. What happens if I put it down some?
It's going to break.
Please, please. You can do it.
That is pitiful.
Okay. Anybody know this image? Tell me. Vitruvian Man. By whom? Da Vinci. Renaissance artist, scientist, painter, inventor. You actually can see his face very close to us. Where's Vitruvian Man? On campus? Yeah, he's painted on the And around the corner from Vitruvian Man, who's talking? Hamlet, right. That's a very Renaissance building, at least 2/3 of it, right? What a piece of work is man, right? Shakespeare expressing Renaissance ideology, humanism, right? How noble in reason, how infinite in fact, in form and moving, how expressed and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a God. The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. This is a great visual expression of Renaissance humanism. Is this creature a damned and defiled and sinful animal that's likely going to hell unless it does exactly the right thing? No. No. Is it an expression of form? Is it balanced? Symmetrical? Right? There's a long commentary that Da Vinci wrote that goes along with this image that talks about how there are thirds and quarters and halves. He talks about how the forehead to the eyes is exactly 1/3 of the face. The eyes to the lips is another third. The lips to the chin is a third. He loves 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, right? One set of genitalia, but 2 hemispheres of the body, right? If the arms are extended and the feet are extended, they circumscribe a circle, a perfect circle. Yet if they're pulled in, you get a nice rectangle. Superimposed on each other, these are perfect forms. If you do indeed draw this, of course this is a perfect body according to Da Vinci. If you draw the circle, see how, if you trace it around, it will, fingertips to toes, make a circle. Circle, symbolically, perfection, completion. You know this, right? The circle doesn't begin, doesn't end. It's perfect. It doesn't have any jagged edges. You can't find its start or its end. The Vitruvian Man for Da Vinci is his physical, visual representation of Renaissance humanism. This is not a corrupt and negligible thing that God is going to consign to the flames. This is actually an incredibly beautiful, profoundly moving paragon of creation. God created this thing not to be punished, but as the greatest glory of his creation, right? That he, this is the best God could do, in essence. That's the subtext of Renaissance humanism. This is the thing that all the other stuff was practiced for, right? He made the animals first. What did he make last? This thing. Because this is the expression of God's perfection. And if God is perfect and he created a perfect thing, and this thing is geometrically as perfect as you could find on this earth among the living creatures, maybe this is the thing that should be celebrated, not damned. Right? So when we get to Faustus, we see how far that great egotistical expression of humanism, that humans are great things,